obviously it's a very complex, intense and sensitive topic. How did you come on board and how did you go about preparing the writing?
George Faber, who's not here today, is probably people in the room has made basically all the television thrown up, and he was my first boss, and he took me for lunch and suggested the idea, and it's an overwhelming idea in lots of ways, because the responsibility of it is so massive, and the idea that we might get it wrong felt very dangerous, because so many people have been damaged by this stuff. But the idea of telling a story about it, particularly where our country is now, and the fact that I think, as Piers alluded to, the fact that we let, not just an evil man, but an actual monster onto our television sets for that amount of time, and then discovered what he was so late on, and there were all these rumours about him, seems to have affected us all, I think, and at least it's partially responsible for the cynicism with which we now look at the world, it feels like. And so the opportunity to examine these cases felt important, and we just immersed ourselves in research and tried to tell it as well as we possibly could.
And that included speaking to a range of people involved in various aspects of this.
Exactly, yeah. People who've been abused, officers involved, barristers involved, and trying to get as much insight as possible. And the insight sometimes was incredibly hard to hear. People telling me that they were pretty sure they were abused on such a date, but they were aware that their memory wasn't strong, and they didn't know that they would be able to stand it up. Transcripts of trials where you see someone being pulled apart really gently, as the geography of a house undermines them, and then amazing police officers who devote their lives to catching these people, and who and who all have got different ways of helping. One of the most extraordinary insights was the fact that an officer we worked with said, she would watch YouTube clips of the person she was interviewing before she interviewed them, in order so that she could flatter them on the way to the interview room. And you kind of go, that's so brilliant that you would think to do that. And that, I think, is what drama can do better than any other form in terms of telling a story about this. Drama is about seeing behind the eyes of the case, and those sorts of things are about seeing behind the eyes of the case. So yeah, no, it was a really daunting prospect, but one that felt important to do.
And Robbie, was it a complicated decision to take the role? What was?
No, once I read the script, I'm going to embarrass you now. No, once I read the script, and also because it's happening everywhere, every day. And I was showing this lifted somebody in the judiciary or parliament or medical. It's just appalling, and I think that appalls all of us. And also, I think importantly, at the risk of sounding a bit pious, it won't happen again, is that the power of drama is that you can deal with these things in a way that the judiciary and the police and parliament and these people can't, or seem unable to. And I thought that was an important thing to do, to be honest.
Was you putting, in a sense, to fame by taking the roles of and looking back some of the entertainers who are now, you were part of the young generation who sort of
Yes.
replace them in this
Well,
way.
it's kind of weird playing a guy who basically either kicked off stage in 1982. There was a wonderful irony about that. You know, all the guys with the Viennetta shirts. Talking about their mother-in-law playing golf. We all think, oh, fuck it. That's not the real world. And so it's kind of weird to be playing one of them. And this terrible catchphrase, you know, you should get shaved.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which I thought was funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Why? I mean, no, it was a script.
And Julie, your character, it's a difficult role to play, the idea of a woman who stands by a man who does something like this. How did you approach her? What's the challenge in playing someone like that?
Well, first of all, it's just fascinating. Women like that are fascinating. It was wonderfully written, and written in a complicated, many faceted way, and just play the fact that because all of the reasons, I don't want to give anything away, of course, but all of the reasons that she stands by him were fascinating to go into, and her faith, because she's a Catholic, so her faith is the thing that's kept everything together. And it's just a really interesting one, and her sort of slightly bottomed up way and how she could be with someone for that length of time, despite whether he's done this or not. The string of infidelities that have gone on all throughout their life, the fact that she wants to keep the family together, that she loves him, and I'd be happy to he'd be happy to, but no, she's not like that, and it's just really interesting to do.
It seems very different ways. I mean, the idea of taking something like this and making it into a family drama is, whereas normally you'd see this through a journalist or a police officer's eyes, it seems a very interesting way to approach it.
The family drama.
About the family, yes. It's about the relationship.
It's about family. Well, that's what's fascinating. In the end, it's how we respond to one another and emotionally how we deal with one another. That's the most fascinating thing, for me anyway, about drama. I think it's for most people. I mean, you do look at these cases, and for me, it's the wife that I think, gosh, I want to know about her.
And also you see them turning up to court
Yes.
with the wife in one arm and the daughter in the other. You're thinking, oh well. Well, what is going on here? Maybe they are a very happy family and he's been wrongly accused.
Yes.
And this is something we talked about a lot.
Yeah.
You should know this, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Give you a mic, sonny. Hey, welcome. No. We had I'm sure thanks to your man here, to Mark, we had the almost unparalleled joy of 2 weeks of rehearsal. When did you last have 2 weeks of rehearsal?
No, never.
1842 in my case.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic because we got a chance to talk through our characters and what their relationship was and how they made a go of their lives together. And this man, the amount of research this man did, we asked him questions non-stop for 2 weeks and he always knew the answer. He says, no, you wouldn't be allowed to do that in court. You'd have to have had the interview at the police station. You couldn't possibly have gone onto the witness stand with that little amount of evidence. And also the crucial thing, the really important thing about it is that sometime or other you're going to have to stand in front of 12 ordinary people who are going to decide whether it happened or not. So it doesn't matter how technical and how convincing your arguments are to a policeman or a lawyer, they're not going to be able to get a judgment. It's going to be you and me on the bridge of the vehicle, a candlestick maker. And that was absolutely crucial. He told us what it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I felt like an expert at the end of it. So what happened? Well, the barrister would talk to the solicitor, and it was fascinating from that point of view. The other thing I should emphasise is that, as I'm sure you've noticed, is that Act 1 is not about whether you did it or didn't do it. That is hardly mentioned. What it's like is, what would it be like for any one of us here if somebody came to the door and said, you raped somebody 20 years ago, and your life literally falls off a cliff, whether you did it or not. That's kind of what Act 1 is, isn't it? Yeah. That's not until 2 and 3 you begin to think, well, let's leave it, and let's leave it as a shift, and I won't spoil it.
So, that obviously the rehearsal is important, but also you've taken something quite dark and made it not light, you made it very stylistic. Why did you, and how did you go about preparing the film?
Well, I think, the writing is very clear about this man being neither innocent nor guilty. And he's very, we were kept on a knife edge, I suppose, and it was really, my job really was to try and preserve that, and also to invite the audience in with their own prejudices to bring to bear on that, as we've seen so much in the news recently. And just keep people, throughout 4 hours of the drama, guessing, and because they're guessing and they're bringing something to the debate, I think.
The last time Andrea Rasbell worked on British TV was with you for Devil's Hall, so maybe as you can talk a bit about her and the role and what happened.
Yeah, well, she's just a wonderful, wonderful actress who just throws herself into the role, and I think she was quite worried about playing such a person who obviously had mental health issues, which is why all the rehearsals were important, so she can make mistakes, everyone can make mistakes, and it's not in front of the camera. And she just makes really, really interesting decisions. She completely occupies the character, she's completely immersed in that character, and in a very sort of idiosyncratic way. But I think that's true of all our principal cast, at least, that everyone brought a lot of themselves to those roles, and there's lots and lots of idiosyncratic little elements in there which are building on the text and things, but are actually not in the text, and that's something that really came out of working with sort of fantastic actors.
The rehearsal was fantastic for that,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's so forensic. Mark, before every, he will not let anything go. He'll speech, you think, I don't know. Then he'll say, that line, you think, he's fantastic. Absolutely, challenged in that way.
Yeah.
So we've got a mic here, I think. Is that the only mic in the... Yeah. So go to just chat it. So just rough guide, who has questions? So you want to go into. So well, we can start with you two in a sentence. That's the easiest. Then if that's it, we can go straight down to it. Or
hello.
My name's Bob.
Can I ask my question? Thank you. Maggie Brown, I wanted to ask Julie a question in particular.
Are you sorry?
I'm here.
Oh, sorry.
I wanted to ask you a question in particular. Your relationship with Channel 4, you seem to have done, many of your best work, many of your best pieces and roles with Channel 4. Is that your impression? That's my impression anyway. What does Channel 4 bring to you that makes you keep going back?
I haven't thought about that. Yes. Okay. It just depends what. No, I haven't really thought about it. It depends what comes in. It just happens to be that the stuff that's been really interesting has come from Channel 4 of late. That's it, basically. With what, sorry?
With Alan Bleasdale, you've done many pieces with Channel 4.
With Alan? Were they with Channel 4? Very long time ago. 1980. God, look, I've done memories. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. I think that Channel 4 stuff tends to have an interesting edge to it. They tend to push things a little bit further, maybe, than mainstream channels do. But I don't know, it's just that's what's come in. I can't think of what else. Alan Bleasdale, got the BBC. Anyway. Always with the rest of it. Sorry, we're having a private conversation.
Hi, sorry, I'm Miranda Bladesby, and my question was about Channel 4 as well, but it was slightly more towards you, Jack. And it was just about why you thought National Treasure had its home at Channel 4 and what it was about the broadcaster that maybe made it a natural fit for the script, especially.
It's interesting. I think when I came on board, it was already set up at Channel 4, so I can't claim that I took it there. I think Channel 4 is very good at asking good questions, and asking questions about.
Long time ago. Earlier.
And you know, and when you are examining these things, you want to be able to examine them as bravely as possible. And Channel 4 does let you off the leash somewhat when it comes to that stuff. And everyone at the channel is interested in answering those questions.
Do you think the Bee would ever make it?
I don't know. I think it might be different. You know, yeah, exactly. The head of drama at Channel 4 is just moving to the Bee, so yeah.
So, and they all have like musical chairs that people are interested in.
We've got two questions, and then I think we'll have to go to the round table. So if we just do these two, and then other questions you can ask later on. So,
Hi, Gabriel Tate. I thought it was great, by the way. I was fascinated that it featured real comedians professing their admiration for Paul. I was wondering, particularly Robbie and Julie, if you'd ever had any encounters with Savile or anyone subsequently convicted in Newshay, and what your thoughts about them were at the time and subsequently.
I never met Savile.
No, I never wanted to. I thought it was a creepy Newshay bag. You could tell, couldn't you? But no, really, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so many people felt like that. And the whole big question is what kind of culture was going on, and he got away for it as long as he did.
Yeah.
I mean, a real toxic culture they got, and I think they're right. And also, of course, importantly, you know, with the way electronics and you know, the social media, as they call it, I hopefully it won't happen again. I mean, that's the big thing we all hope, that you could not control these days. That's what we hope.
Hi, Tim Oglethorpe, Weekend Magazine. Do you believe that people in this kind of situation should be afforded anonymity, at least when they're first facing charges like this?
Well, that's the big question that Victoria asked me, and we have a little, where is she? We had a little mock-up of her radio show, and it's actually mentioned about the fishing expeditions, they call it. If you publish the guy's name, other people will come forward. And the boldest person, or the person who's been most traumatized, and the bravest person will come forward, assuming it's true, big assumption there. And then several other people come forward. And in this case, it's 7 people come forward. And some of them are just doing it because they get paid for the tabloids for their story. Some of them it's delusional. But some of them, almost inevitably, it's true, and it's up to the cops and the psychologists and everybody else to find out who's telling the truth. Yeah?
Yeah, so in other words, there is a reason for why...
Well, no, the way she sums it up, the way she summed it up is that she says, what is most important here? Who do we want to protect here? Do we want to protect the people who've been falsely accused, or do we want to protect the people who've been, you know, despoiled? And somewhere along the line, you have to choose between the two. It's just one of those, is it a dichotomy? You know,
Yeah.
no, word man. What is it? Dichotomy or a paradox? But it's one of them. Well, no, they can't both be true. They can't both be true. Of course, people who are innocent, whose lives fall off a cliff, should be protected.
Yeah.
But also, more importantly, people who've been abused, whose sex lives and self-esteem have been ruined, of course, they must be protected more. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You know?
right, well, that is that for the Q&A. There's roundtable things afterwards, and there's a 5-minute break. But if you're busy, join me in thanking our panel.